Terror attacks in Brussels have left dozens dead, raising questions about the level of the terror threat in Europe and failings in intelligence and security gathering. With me here to discuss this is Sam Jones, the FT's Defence and Security Editor. Sam, welcome. Obviously, it's still a moving situation, but given what we know right now, what can we deduce about the nature of these attacks?
Well, it seems that these weren't necessarily rushed attacks, that there had to be some level of operational capability that had been established, because once you've got attacks in multiple locations using quite large bombs as the casualty count indicates, and on locations which was selected deliberately and timed, you're kind of getting to a level of sophistication where you need to have been thinking about how you're going to do this for some time. There's been a suggestion that maybe these attacks have come in response to the arrest last week of Salah Abdeslam. He's one of the key figures in the Paris attacks in November. But even if these attacks were mounted as a sort of revenge for that, then you still needed quite a broad capability to do so. And I suppose what that really means is that perhaps there is a much bigger jihadist network at work in Brussels or across Europe than security agencies had previously thought.
Well, I guess that's going to be what lots of people are going to be asking is, I mean, you've mentioned there was this arrest and there has been a massive manhunt for some time in Brussels. How could, given that situation, how could this have happened?
Well, that's the really worrying thing. So this is one of the largest manhunts in European history, according to Europol, for Mr. Abdeslam. And the focus on Brussels and on jihadist networks in Brussels has been intense. There's been a huge increase in police resources there. You've had all of the intelligence counter-terrorism agencies around Europe focusing on this issue in the wake of Paris and looking at Molenbeek, which is the district in Brussels where a lot of these people reside. And with all of that, this has still occurred. And I suppose what that really indicates is that ISIS has really entrenched itself and for quite some time now has been thinking about how it can get to a level where it can mount attacks in Europe almost with impunity. I mean, the real key question here is also about communication security, because to pull off this kind of attack, you need a great degree of discipline. We're talking about people that are using encryption very clearly. I mean, that can be the only explanation for how this attack could have been plotted with relative impunity.
I mean, obviously, you've touched on it. There's been a lot of focus, for obvious reasons, right now on Brussels, and we've recently also looked at France. But I mean, what does this tell us more broadly about intelligence deficits? Could you flesh that across Europe?
Yes. So, this is the third attack, a citywide attack of some scale in 15 months in Europe. So we're now at a stage where there really do have to be serious questions asked about information sharing among terrorism agencies and the sort of burden of work that is on those agencies and resourcing for them. When you look at the Belgians, for example, they're publicly adamant that they are doing all they can, but Belgium has the highest per capita number of its citizens that have travelled to Syria to fight with ISIS and other radical groups there, many of which have already returned. And the Belgian State Security Agency simply does not have enough men to follow all of these people. And obviously in Europe it's a borderless zone, so there's a degree in which these attacks can be planned, plotted, organised from other countries in Europe, so the agencies all have to start working together. I mean, really, this has got to be an issue for the EU to start considering now, and there's got to be some real big political weight thrown behind this.
You use the phrase borderless zone. I mean, how much do you think this will feed into there are other bigger debate or other debates happening, big debates happening about free movement of people, borderless travel, and so on?
I suppose, I mean, we do need to discover, who's responsible for this attack, and maybe they'll all prove to be Belgians who've never been to Syria, and they've just been inspired to carry this out. I think that's unlikely. I think it's more likely that this is part of a network that stretches around Europe. And if you remember, in the wake of the Paris attacks, people were saying Schengen, the borderless zone, is dead. If it was going to be dead in the wake of the Paris attacks, then all of those questions are surely going to resurface now.
Sam Jones, thank you very much.
Thank you.